Welcome to Nutmeg Chatter. I'm J. Timothy Quirk. Conrad Sienkiewicz is a poet, an actor and director in local theater, and is also a citizen historian who is the curator of the John Brown in Torrington Facebook page. Conrad is also the driving force behind the upcoming John Brown 217th birthday commemoration, which will occur at the Torrington Historical Society on May 9th, 2017, which is a Tuesday, at 7 p.m. We will discuss John Brown, we will discuss Conrad's interest in the subject, and we will also discuss Conrad's personal work, his involvement in the community, and the things that inspire him. So we hope you enjoy our chat with Conrad Sienkiewicz here on Nutmeg Chatter. Welcome to Nutmeg Chatter. Welcome to the program, Conrad Sienkiewicz.
Thank you, Joe. Good to be here.
It's great for you to be here. I've been looking forward to interviewing you. We are friends. I'm also a fan of your work because you do so much within the community. Not the least of which is sharing your poetry with your fans, with your friends, and I think it's great. I think it's something that really inspires me to be more creative when I see the creative things that you do.
Thank you, Joe.
Now, your particular style, the style of poetry that you particularly enjoy, is haiku. Is that correct?
Correct.
What drew you to haiku?
That's a wonderful question. I think perhaps the simplicity of the haiku, as well as the idea that it could be as complicated and deep as you want to make it, and yet it's just 3 lines, 17 syllables. That's it.
Yes.
And when you have one, and you've got it, as opposed to, a short story where you're always wondering, should it end here, or a longer poem, should it end here? Should I keep working on it? So I like being able to sort of, chew on one for a while and then have it be done. And because it's so small, I guess I don't worry as much or perseverate about, is it right? Is it right? So you have a good feeling of completion when you can get one of these little babies done, and it feels good.
You've got a number of them right, because they do get a lot of interaction when you share them on Facebook, and which I think is great. Some of them inspired me to create some of my cartoon work.
Yeah.
I do a comic strip for the local paper, the Register Citizen, a comic strip called The Crayon Diary, and on more than one occasion I have been inspired by your work, and one of your haikus was a complete comic strip that we did with. So wanted to share that. We're going to talk more about your poetry a little bit, and I'd love for you to share some of your poetry in a little bit in the second segment.
Sure.
But we just mentioned Facebook, and you are also the creator of a Facebook page which is called John Brown in Torrington.
Yes.
What inspired you to create that Facebook page, John Brown in Torrington?
I moved to Torrington in 2001, and being a history buff, whenever I move, I like to learn a little bit of local history. And I didn't know all that much about John Brown, but I knew he was there. He was in Torrington. There's the sign when you come off of Route 8, birthplace of John Brown. It's a little worn out, but it's there. So I naturally started to do a little bit of research, and then the more I learned about John Brown, I guess I was more surprised that he didn't seem to be so visible in Torrington, certainly not as visible as I thought he should be. Very controversial figure, I understand that, but I thought too maybe some of that controversy could lead to greater visibility, because people do have strong opinions of him when they are aware of who he was.
Yes, even today, it's still controversial figure, and but worthy of discussion and worthy of thinking about the concepts, some of the things that are represented in what in his actions and what he did, and the overall history of it. So you were not born in Torrington,
no.
But when you came to Torrington, you came to discover, hey, this is a local, the most famous Torrington native son.
Absolutely.
That by bar none.
Absolutely.
because John Brown is clearly a historical figure,
Mm-hmm.
and a figure of enormous consequence. Would that be a fair assessment?
I agree. Absolutely. Yes.
Some would say that his actions had a direct involvement in the start of the Civil War.
Yes. Some even say the raid on Harper's Ferry and Lincoln's assassination were bookends to that period there, with Harper's Ferry being the start of the Civil War and Lincoln's assassination being the end of it there. So, yes, definitely.
And so, as a result of knowing that there was this historical figure of enormous prominence and enormous consequence, you then found that Torrington itself didn't have that much visibility for this particular historical figure. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, in so much as you definitely see his presence at the Historical Society and in the museum.
Yes.
And if you travel to his birthplace over by the Yukon campus, there are some terrific markers there. But I was surprised that there weren't more references to John Brown, more images of John Brown in advertisements or in stores. So, yeah, that just surprised me because I think he's a big name.
Well, he is a big, and so as a result, you created this Facebook page, and anyone can join who has Facebook who wants to learn more about John Brown. And then you created some T-shirts, right?
I did with bin printed on Goshen Road, a couple of different T-shirts that I had created, and just to put his face out there and get people talking.
And now people are going to be talking about the 217th birthday celebration commemoration. Tell me about that.
Sure. We are having a birthday party for John Brown. He was born in 1800, so this marks his 217th birthday. We will have a proclamation from Mayor Carbone. We will have a great presentation done by Kevin Johnson. Kevin is the pastor at the AME Zion Church on Brightwood Ave, and he researched William Webb, an African-American Civil War soldier. He does a terrific presentation that is just beautifully done. So he'll be presenting that. And that's a great thing because that really shows one of the things that John Brown was fighting for, was equality. So here's an African-American soldier in the Civil War. We'll also have a drum circle led by Angaza Mwando. We will have brief remarks from Mark McCarran of the Torrington Historical Society, as well as Mark Linehan from the Torrington Trails Network. There's a nice, very easy trail that goes around the John Brown birthplace. So Mark Linehan will be giving us some updates on that trail. And of course, no birthday celebration is complete without a birthday cake.
That's true.
So I went to First Act Bakery, and we're going to have a really nice sheet cake, and of course, some John Brownies to round out the celebration as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah. The very famous John Brownies from First Act Bakery is always a hit.
Yes.
Always hit, no matter where they take them. I've seen it. Basically disappear.
Yes.
I've seen an entire tray of those disappear in a matter of moments.
Yeah.
So you recommend that people get there early so that way they can make sure they
don't be disappointed.
they can participate. Now this is going to take place at the Torrington Historical Society in front of the carriage house.
In the carriage house, yes.
Or in the carriage house.
In the carriage house. If the weather is really nice, we might do part of it outdoors. Spring is a tricky time of year.
Sure.
Today was a beautiful day, and we'll see if the weather cooperates. We might do part of it outdoors.
Okay, but the place to go will be the carriage house, and then from there you'll see where the festivities are.
Absolutely.
What would you like the public to know about this particular, besides the event? What do you want the public to know about the importance of the event, or the importance of taking this particular day to talk about John Brown?
I think today A lot of folks are struggling with diversity, and I think conversations about John Brown can help people understand diversity. Um, there are a lot of different opinions about John Brown. Some folks see him as a person of great religious vision. Other people see him as a violent, unstable man. So there are all different opinions. But I think that by talking about John Brown and what he tried to accomplish so long ago is definitely relevant to today, where we continue to have disagreements on who we are and arguments based on race. So I think, having a John Brown celebration will be a good thing to encourage conversations about that and to give people an opportunity to look at history and decide for themselves.
Absolutely. Well, as we're going to think about that as we go into the break, we're going to take just a few moments for a public service announcement, which will actually be the one item which is at the top of the community calendar, and we'll be back in just a few moments here on Nutmeg Chatter. Come celebrate John Brown's 217th birthday. The celebration includes a proclamation from Mayor Carbone, a presentation by Kevin Johnson as William Webb, an African-American Civil War soldier, and a drum circle led by Angaza Mwando. There will also be brief remarks by Mark McCarran of the Torrington Historical Society and Mark Linhan of the Torrington Trails Network. And there will be birthday cake from the First Act Bakery too, and it's all free. So this will be Tuesday, May 9th at 7 p.m. at the Carriage House behind Torrington Historical Society, which is 192 Main Street. Once again, it is all free. For more information, please contact the Torrington Historical Society at 860-482-8260 or email torringtonhistorical@snet.net. The bold and tenacious spirit of John Brown lives in Torrington. Welcome back from that very timely PSA announcement. We're back on Nutmeg Chatter talking with Conrad Sienkiewicz about the John Brown celebration, which will occur on Tuesday, that's May 9th at 7 p.m. at the Torrington Historical Society. We were talking about John Brown, that he is a controversial, but clearly it is undisputed that he was a consequential figure, and it's important that Torrington should own that particular, piece of history that he was born here. And so there was the birth site. Now, the birth site, there was a house that burned. It burned earlier in the last century, if you will. And so now it's just markers, but there was a trail. And if memory serves, there was a group of volunteers who got together to help clear that path. And if memory serves, you were part of that.
Yes, okay. I was with the Torrington Trails Network.
Tell me about how that came about.
Torrington Trails Network has been doing a great job trying to get more trails in Torrington and trying to connect different trails so that they're not separated, but you can go from one trail to another and ultimately traverse many parts of Torrington. And I saw that they were working on creating a trail around John Brown's house, and they were looking for volunteers. So I signed up, and it's been a lot of fun helping them out and blazing trails and raking and cutting, and they've even built some small footbridges several months ago as well, so that when it's muddy in the springtime, you can still get through pretty easily.
And I can say from personal experience that there were a lot of volunteers who showed up to participate on that particular day, because I showed up and I remember that there was, along with a number of members of the group, the T-Town Torrington Chatter.
Yes. Because
that's around the time that was first formed. And this was one of the things that occurred after a cash mob. People went, which occurred at Alfredo's Deli.
Yes.
A number of people went and helped clear out the trail.
Right.
And so if memory serves, there were a lot of volunteers. So there were a lot of people that were interested in helping be a part of this historical moment.
Yes.
And so now people have another means of participating in a historical moment. This more of a commemoration where they can learn more about John Brown,
Mhm.
and then make decisions for themselves. Are there any books that you would recommend that are good ways of learning more about John Brown?
Yes, absolutely. A book that I really like is called Midnight Rising by Tony Horwitz, and he also wrote Confederates in the Attic, which was a very well-received book. But Midnight Rising is the subtitle is John Brown and the Raid That Sparked the Civil War, and it's very well researched, but very, very readable. Clocks in at just under 300 pages, but I found it to be a real page turner. He focuses not only on Harper's Ferry, but gives a good overview of
And some
Brown's life
context.
as well.
That's excellent.
Yes, lots of context.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
for more information, that's something that people can look at if they so choose, and definitely learning more about our history, about our shared history, is always an important thing. So that's fantastic. And speaking of history, one also has personal history, and you are very involved in the community. It didn't surprise me that you had volunteered to help clear out brush for the trail at John Brown, because you do so many volunteer activities. I'm not going to have you agree with me on that, because that wouldn't be fair, but I'm telling you that you do. And part of some of the things that you're involved in is also the theater. In particular, the Goshen Players it has some particular resonance for you. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
What about theater interests you?
I love the creativity of theater, and I also love the element of community that comes together in theater. It's a wonderful place to meet people of all different ages and backgrounds and talents, and you come together for a couple of months with this sort of instant family. You create something really neat that you perform 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 times maybe, and then it's done. And there are those feelings of sadness that it's over, but there's that feeling of accomplishment that something beautiful was created and put on display for the community.
Excellent.
So yeah, it's and hopefully there's always another show on the horizon that you're looking forward to. So it's sort of that whole cycle of life thing.
You've done a number of different tours of duty, if you will, within the Goshen Players, not the least of which you were a director. You directed a production of 12 Angry Jurors, which was critically acclaimed and well received, especially because of the foreman, which I happen to have played. So, but
I thought you looked familiar.
It's me. It's me. Do you know? So yes, I thoroughly enjoyed working with you on that particular production. It was a great show. It was a great cast.
Thank you.
Everybody had a great time, and it was extremely popular. And I'm not saying that because of me. I'm saying that just because you had enormous interest, and the audience attendance was through the roof there. So, are you going to be directing anything in the future, or because I've also seen you now do like lighting? You did lighting, if I understand correctly, for First Date. Or did you do something behind the scenes on First Date?
Yeah, I was in charge of the spotlight.
The spotlight,
for First
okay.
Date. Yep.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. I hadn't done spotlight in a long time, so it was dusting off some old skills.
That was also another
fun.
well-received show, so well-received that they added another show before it closed, because there was so much interest in it. So, so I know you've done lighting, you've done acting, you've done directing. What's next on the horizon theatrically for you?
I'm not sure. I was just saying it's always nice to have a show on the horizon. I'm not sure which one will be next.
Okay.
Yeah, no great plans. It's a little tricky. My wife is also involved in theater, Lydia Babbitt, and she just did a terrific run with Calendar Girls at the Warner. And my daughter also likes to be involved in shows as well. So sometimes it's a question of timing and figure out who's going to be involved and who's going to cook dinner and keep the home fires burning.
Lots of actors in the family. You've been able to work with your family, correct?
A little bit, yes.
Well,
yes.
And I know that you worked with your daughter on a show that I happen to have seen.
Ah, yes.
That was
Seussical.
Seussical,
Yes.
the musical.
Yes.
So
yes.
you were general Genghis Khan Schmidt.
Yes, sir.
So if you want to sing a couple of lines from... No, I'm kidding. I won't put you on the spot there. But yeah, absolutely. That's something that you always look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
You're always a part of the theatrical community.
Mm-hmm.
And then you are a part of the audience because you always support other theatrical productions, which I think is pretty cool. Actually, we got to it at the end of this particular break without hearing some of your poetry. So when we come back, I'm going to ask you during the break to get ready with some poetry. We'll come back and we'll talk about your poetry in the third segment.
Excellent.
So once again, this is Nutmeg Chatter. We'll be back in just a few moments after this public service announcement. Come celebrate John Brown's 217th birthday. The celebration includes a proclamation from Mayor Carbone, a presentation by Kevin Johnson as William Webb, an African-American soldier, and a drum circle led by Angaza Mwando. There will also be brief remarks from Mark McCarn of the Torrington Historical Society and Mark Lenham of the Torrington Trails Network. And there will be cake from First Act Bakery, and it's all free. So party down with John Brown. Tuesday, May 9th at 7 p.m. at the Carriage House behind the Torrington Historical Society, 192 Main Street. For more information, please contact the Torrington Historical Society at 860-482-8260 or email torringtonhistorical@snet.net. The bold and tenacious spirit of John Brown lives in Torrington. And welcome back to Nutmeg Chatter as we go into our third segment here on our program. I had led with your love of poetry and specifically my love of your poetry. And I'd love for you to be able to share some of that with our listening audience. So would you be able to share some of your poetry with us?
Sure, absolutely. I have a little book that's kind of neat. It's a date book that my sister gave me, a 5-year date book, and it just... It's supposed to go through 5 years, and I started it in 2012, and my goal was to try to write a poem each day, and that didn't happen, so I have a lot of blank spaces. But the neat thing is the poems often follow the seasons, which is something that traditional haiku usually does. So I can open up to the dates such as the end of April and find haiku that was inspired by the seasons. So I thought I would bring that book in and take a look at some of those.
Now, for the listening audience, remember haikus, they're short. They're 3 lines, 17 syllables.
Correct.
And they don't always rhyme. In fact, most of the time they don't.
Yes, correct.
But they always have some deeper meaning within it. And so I will let you share some of your haiku.
Thank
you. Haiku with Conrad Sienkiewicz.
And these are just some seasonal ones from April and May. Forsythias seem to be happy wherever they have been planted. Such a pity that no one will ever pay me to stare at pansies all day. Ignoring the rain, standing as tall as ever, just being tulips. Please, Con, sister begs, no more haikus about plants. I hope her shrubs die. My walk a war zone, exploding forsythia, lethal hyacinth. If I had called you my bright wild forsythia, then would you have stayed? Those were in 2014, and looking through this book, I realized I was paying a lot of attention to the forsythias and the flowers that were blooming around. And I think part of the reason for that, 2014 was a tough year for me. My sister had passed in the spring, and then my mom died a couple of months later.
I'm sorry.
So I think I was spending a lot of time looking at the plants and just kind of looking for beauty wherever I could find it.
And you know what? But there's some humor in your poetry. There's a personality in the poetry that shines through, which I think the thing that for me resonates a lot.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that's probably for a lot of your uh, fans, the people who enjoy your haiku, is that your personality does come through on the page
Well, thank you.
when you see it.
Thank you, Joe.
So
Thank you.
I'm going to let you read a couple more if you'd be so kind.
Sure.
Maybe 3 more haiku
Sure.
with Conrad.
Tramping on the trail, crossing creeks with stepping stones, feel like Fred Astaire. Wishing that I could syncopate windshield wipers to this ragtime rain. Creative sparrows find food on a trunk, pretend they are woodpeckers.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Conrad Sienkiewicz, there's some haiku. I hope, you'd have a John Brown Facebook page. I hope at some point, if it so interests you, create a Facebook page for your poetry so you can share it with other people so that way it gets out to a larger audience. I know that I have shared your poetry in the past, either in comic form or in other forms, on the Nutmeg Chatter website when that occurred as well.
Yes.
So I will always support your poetry because I enjoy what you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Before we conclude, is there, I'd like, you are involved in the community in many different ways. One of the things is you're a Rotarian.
Yes.
And so being a Rotarian, you're always involved in many different activities that help benefit the local community and beyond, correct?
Sure. Yes.
And also, in your work, you're also a volunteer manager for CCAR, correct?
Yes. Correct.
That's very important, especially in this day and age.
Sure.
There's a great need, and your role fills that need or tries to help fill that need and do a great public service.
Thank you.
Is public service an important thing for you as a person?
Yes. Yes, it definitely is. I think it's important to give back to the community, and I think it's important for each of us to do what we can to improve our lives and the lives of the people that are around us.
That makes sense. Yeah, and obviously, it's something that clearly is a part of what you do. It's something that you own. You have ownership for because you are so actively involved in the community, whether it is participating in events that others are putting on, or in some case, spearheading a program that eventually becomes a historical 217th birthday for John Brown, which will be on May 9th, this Tuesday. Do you think that there are other ways that Torrington might sometime in the future help commemorate this important historical figure?
My goal is to see this party get bigger each year. I would love to see John Brown's birthday party turn into a half-day celebration, a full-day celebration, maybe a weekend celebration. I have so many ideas for other events related to John Brown.
A kid's day off school.
Oh, wow.
Something on those lines.
There we go. That's dreaming big.
But there are definitely there's some opportunities there for the Torrington community to share their knowledge and appreciation of a very consequential historical figure, John Brown, and you are spearheading that effort. And if people want to get involved in that, they can find out more information on your Facebook page, the John Brown in Torrington Facebook page.
Correct.
Well, Conrad Sienkiewicz, I want to thank you for being my guest here on Nutmeg Chatter. I hope that we share another conversation, another chat, if you will, sometime down the road, perhaps talking more about your process of creating a poetry, or if you're involved in another theatrical production in Goshen, like I know you will.
Yes.
Then I extend that invitation to you so we can talk some more about the work that you're doing in Torrington. It's great, and I'm a big fan.
Thank you, Joe. This was a very fast half hour.
Absolutely, but time flies when you're having a great chat here on Nutmeg Chatter. Nutmeg Chatter is a production of WAPJ Torrington Community Radio. Some music has been provided by the Jingle Punks, courtesy of YouTube royalty-free music. My guest, Conrad Sienkiewicz, is the curator of the John Brown in Torrington Facebook page, and we thank him for participating in today's chat. Stay tuned at 4 p.m., The Hotspot with Darcy. Thank you, and have a good day.